A commercial plane sits on the tarmac at the Adelanto Immigration Processing Center in the Southern California desert. Inside, a 42-year-old man gazes out the window at American soil for the very last time. His name is Jason Nellon Priscilla Flores, a native of Ecuador, a legal U.S. resident for 25 years, accused of participating in the largest jewelry heist in American history. $100 million, gold, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, Rolex and Cartier watches, all gone in 27 minutes. He should be in a federal courtroom. He should be facing 15 years in prison. He should be answering to the 14 jeweler families whose lives were destroyed. But he isn't. The plane's engines rev up, the doors close, and as the aircraft takes off toward Ecuador, federal prosecutors in the United States still do not know that their prime suspect has just escaped American justice. A system failure, experts will say. The left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, former federal prosecutor Lori Levinson will declare. The victim's attorney, Jerry Kroll, will sum it up more bluntly. My clients are in shock. They want to know how this could happen. The answer lies in a story that begins 3 years earlier on a dark California highway in the dead of night. Two in the morning on July 11th, 2022. Lebec, California, a truck stop called Flying J Travel Center, 130 kilometers north of Los Angeles. A Brinks tractor trailer, the largest security and cash handling company in the world, is parked in the lot. Inside the armored cab, two armed guards. One of them, James Beatty, is at the wheel. The other, Tandy Motley, sleeps in the bunk behind the driver's seat. The trailer is not armored. Only a common padlock and a red plastic seal protect the rear door. Inside it, 73 bags, each weighing between 32 and 45 kilograms, packed in identical orange plastic. They contain the fortune of 14 jewelers who participated in the International Gem and Jewelry Show in San Mateo. They are loose diamonds, some valued at $500,000 each, necklaces of 25-carat yellow diamonds, Australian black opals, Burmese rubies, about 100 Rolex and Cartier watches, unique pieces built over a 40-year career. Motley enters the truck stop to buy food. He spends 27 minutes away from the truck. When he returns, the red seal is cut, the padlock missing. 24 bags vanished. We had a lock here and it's gone, Motley will tell police on body camera footage. We looked around, nothing. The robbery happened in absolute silence. Beatty slept through the entire operation. What the Brinks guards didn't know was that they had been watched for days. The thieves were not amateurs. 3 days before the robbery, on July 8, 2022, a man named Jaziel Padilla Resto entered the International Gem and Jewelry Show in San Mateo. Padilla used several fake names: Ricardo Noel Moya, Ricardo Barbosa, Alberto Javier Losa Chamorro. He spent 3 days studying the show, watching the jewelers, mapping their movements, talking on the phone with accomplices outside. On the last day of the event, 3 other men appeared: Carlos Victor Mestanza Cercado, Pablo Raul Lugo Laroig, and Jorge Enrique Alban. They didn't go to see jewelry. They went to watch the Brinks truck being loaded. In the afternoon, the guards began stacking the 73 bags in the trailer. Beatty and Motley noticed something strange. A man in a nearby vehicle was watching them intently. They did not confront him. Motley commented to Brinks colleagues. He informed the event organizer. But no one took action. When the Brinks truck left the event center that night, 6 men followed it. They communicated by cell phone. The truck headed down Interstate 5, California's main north-south artery. The thieves followed it for 480 kilometers. They stopped when it stopped in Buttonwillow. They waited when it stopped in Lebec. And when Motley walked into the gas station at 2 a.m., they acted. In less than 30 minutes, they cut the seal, broke the padlock, and extracted 24 of the 73 bags. The choice was not random. The bags had colored tags indicating the declared value of the contents. The thieves took the most valuable ones. It's hard to believe it was a coincidence, said Gene Malky, one of the robbed jewelers. They knew when the truck was leaving. They knew where it was going to stop. They knew how long it was going to stop. The Brinks heist was not the group's first crime. According to the federal indictment, The 7 men had been perfecting their technique for months. On March 2nd, 2022, 4 months before the jewelry theft, the thieves followed a truck carrying Samsung electronics in Ontario, California. When the driver stopped to buy something at a store, they distracted the man while other members of the group looted. They took $240,573 in merchandise. Less than 2 weeks later, the group struck again. This time, a truck transporting Apple AirTags in Fontana. The driver caught them in the act. One of the thieves pulled a knife and shouted, "Don't move or I'll kill you." They took $57,377 in products. On May 25, 2022, they tried to break into a truck at a station in Fontana using a crowbar. They failed, but on the same day, they found another target and stole $14,081 in Samsung electronics. The robberies had a clear pattern: follow cargo trucks, wait for the driver to be distracted, act with surgical speed. The Brinks heist was the final graduation. The difference, instead of electronics, the target was a fortune in gemstones. After the robbery, the 24 bags were taken to East Hollywood. The loot was divided, and then the thieves disappeared. In the following days, 5 of the 6 suspects deactivated the cell phones they used during the crime. The FBI took over the investigation, interviewed the Brinks guards, analyzed security camera footage, tracked phone records. But the jewelers knew nothing. Arnold Duke, director of the International Gem and Jewelry Show, had worked in the industry for 45 years. He had never seen anything like it. "We've never had anything remotely close to this," he told CNN. A merchant who did not want to be identified told the press, "30 years of my life's work were stolen." Gene Malky, co-owner of 47th and 5th Incorporated, lost approximately 650 pieces of jewelry, including a necklace with 25 carats of yellow diamonds, a rare Australian black opal, and a Burmese ruby. "There are days when you forget this whole story," Malky told the Los Angeles Times years later. Weeks after the robbery, before any arrests, a legal war began. Brinks sued the 14 jewelers. The company's argument: customers had declared a total value of only $8.7 million on their shipping forms. If the insurance covered only that amount, Brinks would pay only that amount. The jewelers counterattacked with a $200 million lawsuit. They admitted in depositions that, yes, they had underdeclared their goods. "It was a business decision," explained Malky. Additional insurance was prohibitively expensive. Many of the jewelers were individual operators, family businesses that could not afford the fees. Everyone trusted Brinks. In decades of work, the company had never lost anything. But the jewelers also accused Brinks of gross negligence. The trailer was not armored. The only protection was a common padlock. One of the guards slept while the other was away from the vehicle for almost half an hour. Brinks slept and "It's customers' loss," declared Jerry Kroll, the victim's lawyer. "They should be offering a reward, not the victims, who were devastated." The legal dispute dragged on for years. 3 jewelers accepted confidential settlements with Brinks. The others kept waiting. Some closed their businesses. Others abandoned the profession. Brinks refused to transport goods for any of them while the lawsuit was pending. For 3 years, the FBI investigation advanced in silence. Agents tracked phone records, analyzed financial movements. They built a web of connections between the suspects. They discovered links to Ecuador. At some point, one of the suspects fled to Panama. Another was in jail in Arizona for an unrelated crime, third-degree burglary. The investigation crossed borders. In June 2025, 3 years after the robbery, the federal grand jury in Los Angeles sealed an indictment against 6 men. All were charged with conspiracy to commit theft of interstate and foreign shipments. The maximum penalty: 20 years in federal prison for each theft charge. On June 16, 2025, federal agents executed search warrants. They found part of the stolen jewelry, watches, large amounts of cash, but most of the loot was never recovered. On June 17, 2025, 2 of the suspects appeared in federal court in Los Angeles. The charges were made public. "It was a long wait," said prosecutor Kevin Butler. "There were times when the victims and team members wondered if we would see this success." Jaziel Padilla Resto, who was in jail in Arizona for another crime, was transferred to federal jurisdiction. Carlos Mestanza was arrested in Panama in July 2025 and extradited to the United States. Pablo Lugo and Jorge Alban were released on bail, and Yason Priscilla Flores, the 42-year-old man from Upland, appeared in court in June 2025. He pleaded not guilty. A federal judge granted his release on a $275,000 bond. The defense argued that he was a lawful permanent resident. He had lived in the United States for 25 years. He had roots in the community. The trial was set for February 2026. The victims expected finally a reckoning. In August 2025, Jason Priscilla paid the $275,000 bond. He should have been released. He was not. Before he could leave federal custody, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, ICE, detained him. There was an immigration detainer against him. Federal prosecutors did not know. ICE records indicated that Priscilla had been a lawful permanent resident since March 2025, but his criminal past made him deportable. According to the Department of Homeland Security, Priscilla had a history that included sexual assault, terroristic threats, burglary, vandalism, and theft. He was transferred to the Adelanto Immigration Processing Center in the California desert. His lawyer, John D. Robertson, faced enormous problems communicating with him. Priscilla was indigent. He could not afford an own immigration lawyer, and the federal prosecutors who were building the case against him had no idea what was happening. December 16, 2025. A courtroom at the Adelanto Processing Center. Jason Priscilla Flores appeared without a lawyer. The immigration judge presented his options. He could fight deportation. He could claim his permanent resident status. He could try to stay in the United States to face the criminal trial. If convicted, he would serve up to 15 years in prison. Afterward, he would be deported anyway. Or he could choose voluntary departure. Priscilla admitted all allegations against him in the immigration proceedings. He asked to be deported to Chile. The judge denied the request for voluntary departure, but issued a final order of removal. The destination, Ecuador, the country where he was born. According to the review of notes by the Special Assistant United States Attorney, the immigration judge considered the defendant eligible to pursue several different relief options, but after discussing with the judge, the defendant chose not to pursue them and requested voluntary departure. Priscilla chose deportation instead of prison. December 28, 2025. 12 days after the immigration hearing, Jason Priscilla Flores boarded a flight to Ecuador. His criminal lawyer was not notified. Federal prosecutors were not consulted. Unknown to prosecutors, the defendant was taken into immigration custody. The U.S. Attorney's Office wrote in court documents. There, he faced two options: assert his lawful permanent resident status, fight his criminal case, and face a potentially long criminal sentence only to possibly be deported after his release, or waive his immigration rights, self-deport, and avoid all criminal exposure. He chose the latter. On January 8, 2026, defense attorney John Robertson sent an email to prosecutor Gina McCabe. Priscilla had been deported. McCabe responded with genuine surprise. This really was the left hand not knowing what the right hand was doing, former federal prosecutor Lori Levinson told the Associated Press. It is beyond my comprehension how they would deport him without prosecutors being involved in the conversation. January 9, 2026. Attorney John Robertson filed a motion to dismiss the case against Priscilla. The argument, by deporting his client, the federal government had waived the prosecution. Robertson asked that the dismissal be with prejudice, meaning the charges could never be filed again. The government cannot now have it both ways, Robertson wrote. Federal prosecutors opposed it. They had not given up on the case. They did not know about the deportation. They wanted the dismissal to be without prejudice, leaving the door open to prosecute Priscilla if he ever returned to the United States. Prosecutors should allow the civil immigration process to proceed independently while criminal charges were pending, prosecutors wrote. That is exactly what they did in this case. Unwittingly to the defendant's benefit, as he will now avoid trial and any potential conviction and sentence unless and until he returns to the United States. In a statement, DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin defended the deportation. Jason Nelson Priscilla Flores is an illegal criminal alien from Ecuador whose criminal history includes sexual assault, terroristic threats, burglary, vandalism, theft, and more. In 2001, he entered the U.S. as a lawful permanent resident. However, he became deportable as an alien due to his criminal convictions. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem, illegal criminal aliens are not welcome in the U.S., McLaughlin added. For the 14 jeweler families who lost everything, the news of the deportation was devastating. They are in shock, said Jerry Kroll, the victim's lawyer. When a defendant in a major federal theft case leaves the country before trial, the victims are left with no answers, no verdict, and no closure, Kroll told the Los Angeles Times. Many of the jewelers were elderly. They had built their inventories over decades. Some lost their life savings. Others worked with merchandise on memo. The jewelry industry's consignment system, where merchants receive pieces without paying up front, owing the value only when they sell. They now owed fortunes to suppliers for jewelry they would never see again. The federal judge analyzed the motions. On one side, the defense arguing that the deportation made a fair trial impossible. On the other, prosecutors asking to keep the charges alive in case Priscilla returned. The judge ruled in favor of the defense. The case against Giz and Priscilla, Flores was dismissed with prejudice. The charges were permanently terminated. Federal prosecutors will not be able to prosecute him again for the same crimes, even if he is found on American soil. A man accused of participating in the largest jewelry heist in United States history escaped justice through a bureaucratic loophole between two federal agencies. The case against the other 6 suspects continues. Carlos Mestanza, extradited from Panama, remains in custody. Jaziel Padilla Resto, who is already in jail in Arizona, awaits trial. Pablo Lugo and Jorge Alban were released on bail. The whereabouts of Victor Valencia and Eduardo Macias have not been publicly confirmed. Most of the stolen jewelry remains missing. Experts believe the gemstones have already been recut, removing identification marks. The gold was melted down and reformed. The watches disassembled and sold for parts. $100 million evaporated into a global criminal underworld. The Brinks heist of July 2022 went down in history as the largest jewelry heist in American history. It surpassed the legendary Hatton Garden heist in London in 2015, rivaled the Antwerp heist in 2003, echoed the Brinks-Mat robbery near Heathrow Airport in 1983. But unlike those classic cases, this one ended not with a dramatic sentencing in a courtroom. It ended with a night flight to South America. A man accused of helping to orchestrate the crime now lives free somewhere in Ecuador. The jewelers who lost their fortunes continue in endless legal battles. Brinks faces lawsuits that could take years to resolve. The story of the largest jewelry heist in American history is not about a perfect crime. It is about an imperfect system.